Let me check.
Should I begin, Prabhu?
Yes, you can begin.
Okay. And someone is asking, Andrea is asking in the chat if this is being recorded.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Very good.
It is being recorded.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Madeka Bandho Matsangim Madguro Man Mahadhana Manistaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostute. This is not the verse, but this is a prayer to Srimad Bhagavatam from Sanatana Gosvami. I'll just recite this prayer before we chant the verse. He says, "Oh, Srimad Bhagavatam, oh my only friend, oh my companion, oh my teacher, oh my great wealth, oh my deliverer, oh my good fortune, oh my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you." This is from the Krishna Lila Stava of Sanatana Goswami. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 9th chapter, 5th verse, the passing away of Bhishma Dev. So I will read the verse 3 times, and then I'll read the purport, and then I'll say some prayers, okay? Tatra brahmashayak sarve devashayascha sattama rajar sayascha tatrasam drastum bharata pangavam. Tatra brahmashayak sarve devarshayascha sattama rajar sayascha tatrasam drastum bharata pangavam. And one more time. Tatra brahmashayak sarve devar sayascha sattama rajar sayascha tatrasam drastum bharata pangavam. Tatra, there, Brahma Rishaya, rishis among the Brahmanas, sarve, all, Deva Rishaya, rishis among the demigods, cha, and Sattama, situated in the quality of goodness, Raja Rishaya, rishis among the kings, cha, and Tatra, in that place, Asan, were present, Drastum, just to see, Bharata, the descendants of King Bharata, Pungavam, the chief of. Translation. Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharata, Bhishma Dev, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis among the demigods, brahmanas and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The rishis are those who have attained perfection by spiritual achievements. Such spiritual achievements can be earned by all, whether one is a king or a mendicant. Bhishma Dev himself was also one of the Brahmarshis and the chief of the descendants of King Bharata. All rishis are situated in the quality of goodness. All of them assembled there on hearing the news of the great warrior's impending death. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangolam Gayate Girim Yatkripas-tamaham bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vanshakapatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you all so much for joining. We're speaking from this most extraordinary chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the passing away of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev was a most extraordinary personality in his life and now at the time of his death, passing away from this world. So here we are, and there's a description that all of these great rishis, the Brahma rishis coming from Brahmin backgrounds, the rishis coming from the heavenly planets, and the Raja rishis, the rishis who are kings as well as rishis, they're all realized sages. And they've all come to honor Bhishma Dev and to hear from him. So even though there's so many exalted sages here, they've all come to honor and hear from Bhishma Dev. So this verse is talking about how they're all these sages, all of these different kinds of rishis or sages, they're all situated in the mode of goodness. And actually, it says that I like this line in the purport that says, rishis are those who have attained perfection by spiritual achievement, and that spiritual achievement can be earned by anyone who's situated in the mode of goodness. So I like that it's very broadly offered to each and every one of us. And actually, there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 4th Chapter, 18th verse, if you want to note it down, that says that anyone in any of the cultures of the world, anyone who is addicted to sinful activities can all become purified. Purified means to come to the mode of goodness, right? But anyone from anywhere, from any culture, from any community, of any background can all be purified and come to the level of pure devotion by the mercy of the all-powerful Vishnu and the devotees of the all-powerful Vishnu. The word is used, Prabha Vishnu. So I think that's important. And so what does it mean actually to come to the mode of goodness? Bhagavad-Gita discusses the 3 modes of material nature. Mitravinda is asking, this is a really important verse, Mitravinda. She's asking for that verse number. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 4th Chapter, 18th verse. It's a verse that Prabhupada quotes many, many times in lectures and in letters and many places, where it actually mentions people from different cultures of the world. It mentions Greece and Africa and Russia and all these places. All these people can become transformed by the mercy of the powerful Vishnu. So this mode of goodness is discussed in Bhagavad-Gita in several places, and particularly in the 18th chapter, 42nd verse. There's a verse, Samo damas tapasocham shantim arjavam evacha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma swabhavajam. Yeah, so the translation is peacefulness. These are the qualities of the mode of goodness, right? Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities of the mode of goodness. So Bhishma Dev is one of these realized, purified rishis himself, even though he lived his life doing politics and diplomacy and all of that kind of life. But the purport says that he's the greatest of all of the descendants of the great Maharaja Bharata. So he's a Rajarshi, a wise man amongst kings, and yet he's also his mother was Ganga Devi, so he's also a Devarshi himself, a Deva Rishi. So he's a wise man amongst the demigods and amongst the kings. And he had the freedom to choose when he would leave this world. He had the benediction to choose the time when he would leave this world. That was a benediction that was given to him by his father when he was a very young man, and he made his terrible vow to live a life. It was called a terrible vow. That's what the name Bhishma means, terrible. So when he made this vow of lifelong celibacy, this voice came from the sky and said, Bhishma. And so his father at that time gave him the benediction because he had made this sacrifice for the happiness of his father. So he gave him that benediction that he could choose the time of his leaving this world. So that reminds me of a little something about freedom. And I wanted to share this with you. This desire for freedom, this wanting to have freedom, Srila Prabhupada talks about also in the first canto. I'll tell you this verse number 2, if you'd like to post it, because it's one of Prabhupada's great, what we would call Mahavakyas. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 8th verse, purport. Here's a little paragraph from Srila Prabhupada. He says, the need of the spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and the spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead. So I thought that was really beautiful about that desire that we all have for freedom, right? So in this previous verse from the verse that we're studying today, the previous verse says that Bhishma Dev was lying on the ground like a demigod who'd fallen from the sky. And he was waiting for this moment when the virtuous Yudhishthira would be crowned as king, when he could rest assured that his dynasty was in the hands of a virtuous ruler. So in one sense, you could say that Bhishma Dev, I think like Kunti Devi in a sense, is perhaps the most extraordinary, long-suffering, and even conflicted character in the whole epic of the Mahabharata. He was the beloved grandfather of the 5 Pandavas. Let's see. Yes. And he felt, even though he was their beloved grandfather, they loved him, he loved them. Still, he felt obligated to fight against them on the side of the evil Duryodhana. Why did he do that? Because he was being maintained by Duryodhana, and he felt a great obligation. So it's a very poignant scene, really. Yudhishthira is about to receive all these instructions from the great Bhishma Dev, and all the great persons of the universe have come to pay their respects. So Prabhupada says in one place that Krishna wanted to establish the kingdom of virtue. And that would be in the hands of Yudhisthira. So Bhishma Dev was waiting for that time when that kingdom of virtue could be installed in the hands of Yudhisthira. I want to read you something else that Srila Prabhupada says a little bit later in this chapter, just a few lines about this kingdom of virtue. This is a little bit of a future purport, text number 16. Prabhupada says, the best policy is simply to abide by the orders of the Lord without argument. The sufferings of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue. I love that phrase, the kingdom of virtue. And therefore, his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishma Dev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhisthira on the throne, although he himself had fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. So even though the great Bhishma Dev, the greatest fighter of them all, was fighting on the side of vice, he couldn't win the battle, right? Bhishma Dev was a great devotee of the Lord, and he chose to fight against the Pandavas by the will of the Lord because the Lord wanted to show that a fighter like Bhishma cannot win on the wrong side. Isn't that super powerful? I wanted you all to hear that because, yeah, we should also try to establish this kingdom of virtue in our hearts and fight for the sake of virtue. And Krishna uses his devotees to set these examples in the world. So Bhishma Dev, he exemplified this extraordinary rasa of servitude, but in chivalry. Isn't that extraordinary? So what is rasa? Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, defines rasa in a beautiful way. I love this definition. So here's what he says. He says, of course, we understand rasa to be a mood or a relationship of love. Here's what he says. He says, that which is beyond imagination, heavy with wonder, and relished in the heart, shining with goodness. So this definition mentions goodness also, and this purport mentions goodness. So we have to also try to come to the mode of goodness, and that's the path toward transcendence, or coming to one day develop that sacred awakening and of feelings of rasa ourselves, right? So it said that there are 5 primary rasas. Some people say 4. I think Krishnadas Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita considers that there are 4 primary rasas because he doesn't consider neutrality like the yogis, that shanti mood that doesn't have active service. He doesn't consider that one of the principal rasas. But some people say it is. So there are differences of opinion. So there's this neutrality like the yogis, the sense of God's greatness, but without active service. And then there's the mood of servitude, active service. Then there's the mood of friendship like Arjuna, and then parental love, and then conjugal love. And then there's 7 indirect rasas, and they are fascinating also. First one is amazement or astonishment, and then humor or laughter, and then chivalry, like this mood of Bhishma Dev, compassion, anger, fear or dread, and then ghastliness. So in Nectar of Devotion, there are some descriptions of this mood and this pastime of Bhishma Dev with Krishna and Krishna's compassion to him. So while he's dying, while he's lying on this bed of arrows, it's not just a flat bed of arrows. These arrows are shooting through his body, and he's in excruciating pain, but he is existing in a transcendental consciousness through all of this, waiting for the moment that he chooses to leave this world. So Nectar of Devotion describes Krishna's immense compassion to grandfather Bhishma. And while he's dying, Bhishma is praying to Krishna, and he describes Lord Krishna as the sun that eradicates all darkness. So yeah, he's lying in this position. Bhishma Dev is very anxious to see Krishna. And so Krishna appeared there. And how does Krishna appear? He appears with 4 arms. Isn't that amazing? Because Bhishma Dev is in this mood of reverence for, seeing his Lord with 4 arms in the mood of Lord Narayan. So Krishna sees this pitiable condition of Bhishma Dev, and he begins speaking with tears in his eyes. And not only was Lord Krishna himself shedding tears, but he also forgot his own self in his compassion. So Bhishma Dev then says, just see the wonderful causeless mercy of Lord Krishna. I am most unfortunate. Look at his humility. He's so fortunate, so blessed. All these people are there to show him respect. But he says, I am most unfortunate. I have no qualification. I was opposing Krishna's most intimate friend, Arjuna. I even tried to kill him. He says, I have so many disqualifications, and yet the Lord is so kind that he has come to see me at the last point of my life. He is worshipable by all the great sages, and still he's so merciful that he has come to see an abominable person like me, he says. Isn't that such extraordinary humility? I think we have many lessons to learn from Bhishma Dev, right? So maybe you remember hearing the backstory that Krishna had promised ahead of time, before the battle of Kurukshetra, that he would not even touch a weapon to help either side, that he would remain completely neutral. And he told Arjuna and Duryodhana that one of them could have his vast army, the army of the practically invincible Yadu dynasty, and one could have him personally on their side, but he would not personally take up any weapons. So he told Duryodhana and Arjuna to come the next morning, and he said that whichever one of them he saw first could have the first choice. So Duryodhana arrived first, and just like Duryodhana, he sat at the top of the bed right next to Krishna's face. And Arjuna, the humble devotee, arrived afterwards, and he sat as a devotee would right at Krishna's feet, right? So of course, when you're lying down and you first wake up, you naturally look at your feet, right? So Krishna saw Arjuna first, and he asked him what was his choice, Krishna's army or Krishna personally, without any weapons. And again, Arjuna, as Krishna's pure devotee, he only wanted Krishna by his side. That was his choice. But Duryodhana was a materialist, and he was only interested in the energy or the Shakti or the power force of Krishna. And he thought Arjuna was really a fool that he chose Krishna and not his army. And he was gloating at the mistake of Arjuna's choice. But then we see the love of Bhishma Dev. His mood of chivalry was so great. This is his mood of chivalry. He wanted to see Krishna break that promise. He promised that he wouldn't take up any weapons. So Bhishma Dev wants to see him break that promise in order to defend the life of his dear devotee Arjuna. Isn't that so beautiful? So Bhishma Dev was fighting in this battle. First of all, earlier in the battle, Duryodhana came to Bhishma Dev and was saying, I don't really think you're fighting with your best strength because you're too sympathetic to those Pandavas. So anyway, those words were a little piercing for Bhishma Dev. But anyway, then he was fighting so magnificently to force Krishna by his love to take up arms, take up a weapon to defend his dear devotee Arjuna. So then Krishna had to jump down from the chariot, and he picks up this broken wheel, that chariot wheel that's on the ground, and he starts running to Bhishma Dev, just like a lion might run to kill an elephant. It's said in these verses coming up. And Bhishma's shooting these arrows at Krishna, and Krishna's feeling them to be like roses. Is that amazing? And in one of the purports coming up, there's a very extraordinary comment from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who's not in the mood of chivalry or servitude. He himself, that commentator, is in the mood of conjugal love. And he says, in his mood of conjugal love, he says that Krishna was feeling these arrows of Bhishma Dev to be just like a lover might feel the love bites of a lover. Isn't that remarkable? So yeah, so Krishna's running at Bhishma Dev, overwhelmed with this desire, anger to protect his devotee Arjuna. And he drops his upper garment on the ground. He's not even noticing it. He's running so fast. And then Bhishma Dev just drops his weapons on the ground, ready to be killed by Krishna, his beloved Lord, by the arrows of Arjuna and by the chariot wheel being thrown by Krishna, right? So Bhishma Dev praises Krishna for his glorious favoritism toward his devotee. So some people criticize that Krishna shows favoritism to his devotees. Bhishma Dev is praising that, right? His devotees, Krishna's devotees, are like his own children. And he's worshiping this image of Krishna breaking his promise. And he is worshiping the image of this angry Krishna running toward him to kill him. And his body, Krishna's body, is smeared with blood from Bhishma Dev's arrows. And he's covered with the dust. It says that his hair is like an ashen color from the dust of the battlefield raised by the hooves of the horses. And he's got a whip in his right hand, just like a fighter. He's got a whip in his right hand, just like a chariot driver, right? And he's got a bridle rope in his left hand. In one place, Prabhupada says that it's no surprise that Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, because really, Krishna is the chariot driver of all of us. He's riding with us in the chariot of our bodies, every one of us. Isn't that a beautiful thought? So then Bhishma Dev mentions that everyone who saw Krishna on the battle of Kurukshetra attained their original spiritual forms after their deaths. So here's Krishna fighting, and all these soldiers on the opposing side, they're looking at the vision. They're having the darshan of Krishna, and they go back to the spiritual world because of that vision at their moments of death. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that Bhishma Dev could never forget this stunning form of Krishna as Partha Sarati, the chariot driver of Arjuna. And he's saying that even Arjuna couldn't see that, have that darshan of Krishna as the chariot driver. Because why? Because Arjuna was sitting behind Krishna, right? So Bhishma Dev observed this military feature of the Lord with even more relish than Arjuna. So yeah, these are a few thoughts on this beautiful mood of Bhishma Dev in this servitude, in the mood of chivalry, and this most unique rasa of love for Lord Krishna as he saw Krishna on the battlefield, ready to break his own promise just to defend his own beloved devotee, Arjuna. So thank you so much. I want to mention, I will be in trouble if I don't mention that if you'd like to partner with me, please go to patreon.com/Rukmini Walker if you want to post that in the chat. And are there any reflections, or what was important for you? What did this discussion bring up for you? Can you reflect something back? What's a takeaway for you? Or maybe someone might have some question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mother. That was a very beautiful class. So here, whoever has a question can raise up the hand. Okay. Andrea, you can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you, Prabhu, and thank you, Rukmini Prabhu, for that amazing class.
Thank you.
My question is a takeaway that just resounded in my head was the establishing a kingdom of virtue in our hearts. That really resounded for me. But to follow up on that, I was just wondering, what are some practical day-to-day things that we can do to kind of establish that kingdom?
That's a great question. Yeah. So, you know, I think someone who wants to ardently develop that kingdom of virtue in their heart will try to see, what can I do? What even more can I do? What special things can I do? If I'm chanting japa, can I try to chant with more attention? You know, if I'm trying to be a devotee, can I try to not say things to offend other devotees? Can I try to be respectful to all devotees and develop, you know, when we're trying to acquire this knowledge of bhakti. So what are the first 5 qualities of bhakti that are given in Bhagavad-Gita? Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, and simplicity. Isn't that amazing? So it doesn't say you should have to learn 1,000,000 verses, or you should be this or that. It's humility, pridelessness, which are almost the same. Nonviolence, tolerance, and simplicity. Simplicity is so beautiful. It's a natural quality of saintly people. It means to do your life or try to establish this kingdom of virtue without pretense, without duplicity, to be simple, like to have a sense of wonder, like a child. Jesus said, to enter the kingdom of God, we have to become like a little child, right? So that's echoed here in this bhakti tradition also. We have to become simple, like a little child. We have to become full of that sense of wonder. How can I do what I do in love to please my beloved? So those simple things, bhakti is so simple that it's often taken for granted. People think, well, this can't be a real serious path like jnana or karma kandya, where you have to be, you know, sitting in the middle of a fire or studying thousands of literatures or learning Sanskrit for 25 years. It's too simple, so it's not taken seriously. In one place, Srila Prabhupada compares the path of bhakti to homeopathic medicine. It's so interesting. He says, people don't take homeopathic medicine seriously because you feel like you're just taking a little sugar tablet. How could it be effective? I should have to take bitter medicine that tastes horrible and makes me cringe, right? Well, bhakti is more like that little sugar tablet of homeopathic medicine. So I hope that's helpful. You know, to be, thank you, Andrea. And I feel like you are like that, you know, to be attentive to the details, because love is in the details. They say that the devil is in the details. Well, love is in the details. So when you really love someone, you care about those details. You care to do something to make it special. So I think we should try to care more carefully to establish that kingdom of virtue. Thank you so much, Hariva. What else? What else was I?
Thank you, Mother. We have Kavi Kanapura Prabhu as a question.
Okay.
Prabhu, you can unmute. We can hear you, Kavi.
Kavi Karnapur. What a great name.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I was using external speakers, that's why it was not coming.
Hariva.
Hare Krishna, Ma. So thank you very much, Ma, for your wonderful lecture. I'll be following your lectures. It's very inspiring, very deep, and very personal. So
Thank you.
we have so much to take home, but I would like to ask this question. It's very controversial, but this has been bothering my mind, and I really want some explanation. Like from my own observation, I've been seeing, like my grandfather, when my grandfather wanted to leave his body, it's above, like, he lived more than 100 years.
Wow.
And what happened was,
You must have lived a pious life to live that long, huh?
I think so, because when I was with him, he is a Catholic, a pure Catholic. Early morning, he goes to like a Magalati, and he goes to the farm, and he comes home, sleep early. He goes to the farm, like that. And he married about 3 wives, and he has many children also. So what I was trying to say is that when he wanted to live his life, when he wanted to leave this world, and the first son was not around. So he told the family that, please call my first son to come, because now I want to leave this world. The angels are waiting for me. So I was surprised to hear this from my mother, because I was thinking, because of sentimentalism or fanaticism, we think that, okay, maybe only those who are maybe on the part of Bhakti can go to God or whatever.
I have a question though first. Are you the first son? Were you the first? Oh, this is your grandfather.
My grandfather, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So he told the other children that, please let my first son come. I'm waiting for him because I have to leave. The angels are waiting for me. And immediately the son came. He handed over to him the family, and he left his body.
Wow. So almost like he was choosing his moment of death himself.
So I was, when I was remembering this, I was remembering the story of Bhishma Dev. And I was now trying to relate it with, also sometimes we see other pure devotees.
Yes.
Bhakti part, they have to pass through excruciating pains, so many difficult situations before they leave their body. So I was just thinking so many things in my mind, that what determines how one leave this world, because, okay, somebody has to be pious. So, because when I mention this story now, you say you must be pious. So are you telling me that the pure devotees also live through some excruciating pain, are they not pious? So all this mix-up is going on in the mind.
Well, first of all, I wanted to address what you said about pure devotees only in the path of bhakti, because there are many great devotees of the Lord in other traditions of the world. I'll tell you a quote I once heard about a Muslim saint. Her name was Rabia. She's from the Muslim tradition. And she said, here's what she said. You can understand her mood of pure devotion. She said, she's praying to God, and she says, if I worship you just for the pleasures of heaven, let me never see heaven. And if I worship you just to avoid the pains of hell, send me there forever. Let me worship you. Then finally she says, let me worship you for your beauty alone. That's pure devotion. So we see pure devotion in many saintly people of all different traditions. And then to address your other point, we can't dictate to Krishna how much suffering we will have, how much suffering we won't have, how we will leave this world. I mean, I know I always pray to Krishna that I can leave this world hearing his holy name, trying to chant his holy name in the association of devotees. Maybe he'll give that chance if we tell him that that's what we are desiring. But there's some great devotees who leave in other ways also. And, people always misunderstand this story of the situation of the Pandavas. And even Bhishma Dev was crying at the suffering, thinking of the suffering of Kunti Devi and her sons. So in one place, Srila Prabhupada says that there's a Bengali saying that the mother teaches the daughter-in-law, the new daughter-in-law has just come to the family, right? So she's a little touchy, maybe she's a little sensitive. So the mother is giving her lessons by teaching her own daughter, do it this way, do it this way. And that way the daughter-in-law listens and she learns too. So this is an example Prabhupada gives, that the Lord teaches the world by giving the example of his devotees. So we see the suffering of the Pandavas. And how did they deal with suffering? How did Prahlada Maharaj deal with suffering? And this gives us an example how to live in this world and how to die in this world, how to take shelter of Krishna in the midst of suffering. So we can't say, some people say, oh, you don't have a big fancy house, God must not love you. Because you don't have a big house, you don't have a big car, right? That's what do they call it? The prosperity gospel or something like that. So no, we don't believe that. Sometimes the greatest devotees are the most impoverished. Look at the beloved devotee of Lord Chaitanya, Kolavecha Sridhar. He was living in a little shack that had holes in the roof, and all his only possession was this broken pot that Even a thief wouldn't steal. And he was so beloved to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya asked him, take any benediction. He said, no, the only benediction I want is to see that Nimai Pandit coming to steal my bananas. That's the only benediction I want. So we can't judge, but when suffering comes, we can receive it and take shelter of Krishna. Sometimes we're having the worst suffering of our life, and at that moment we can take shelter of Krishna more than at a moment when we're enjoying ourselves. So which is more sacred? We never wish suffering on anyone, right? But sometimes we get the deepest realizations in those moments of suffering. Yeah. What else? I hope that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Mother. Ruchika Bataji, you can unmute and ask your question, please.
Hare Krishna, Mother Rukmini.
Hare Krishna. I see beautiful eyes of Krishna, but I don't see your face.
There I am.
Okay.
Hare
Where
Krishna.
are you? Where are you? Oh, I see you. Very good. Thank you for
Yeah.
showing beautiful face.
Yeah, I came to know about this session through your Facebook page, and I thought of joining this because I
Wonderful.
really feel inspired by your deep relationship, deep sincere devotion that you have for Srila Prabhupada, and it really inspires me. Thank you so much for displaying such beautiful, sincere devotion. So, while you were reading this 1.9 canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I just came across this line where it is said, the Lord was perfectly happy with the wounds caused by the sharp arrows of Bhishma Dev. And it instantly came to my mind that it's only the Lord who can be perfectly happy with the wounds. But if you try to compare that with material relationships, we always remember the wounds that were caused to us by people in our close relationships, our friends, our family members. We always tend to remember that. But Lord is like, he's so eternally forgiving. So I was thinking I was thinking that, if is it possible for a human being to develop that kind of qualities? So should we even try to inculcate that kind of qualities, or should we just forget that, just understand that only Krishna can be like that, only Krishna can have that kind of qualities of eternal forgiveness, of being fine even with the wounds?
Well, sometimes we have to sit with those feelings, those emotions we're feeling. Sometimes we can't forgive right away because sometimes that's a little bit artificial. But sometimes we can try to think, what caused that person to act like that to me? And maybe that person is also suffering. And maybe there's a way I can try to see from their point of view. And then maybe just sit with it and pray to Krishna for the answer. Because I agree with you. It is a bit artificial when we say, oh, I forgive. But it is a good thing to try to come to that and look at the examples that we see in sacred literature. There's so many great examples. But then to see how I can maybe take some baby steps in that direction. Like if you have some kind of, altercation with somebody, you bump into somebody and they get offended or some little bitty thing, try to see what can I do to apologize for the situation, because maybe I had a little part in that also. Maybe I wasn't recognizing, what my part might be. So I think that's a very healthy thing to do, to look and see. And then I might have spoken about this before, but the power of an apology is tremendous because whatever it may be, even if you really think I didn't really do very much wrong in this situation, but you could even say, I'm sorry that I didn't really express my real feelings to you because you are so dear to me. And I'm sorry that, I was a little in a rush yesterday and I was a little rough in the way I spoke. And I just wanted you to know how much I really do care about you. So, that's kind of like a baby step. And then someone can say, oh gosh, thank you so much, because I just thought you were mad at me. And I didn't know what sometimes it's just a tiny little thing that you can you can do. And, you know, and that helps so much to just smooth the path. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
path smoothing is very powerful.
sometimes when we are not convinced that it's our fault, then also does it help to just to say sorry? Because I've seen people doing that. When it's not their fault, they say sorry and make the other person speak up.
But it may, you know, it's not good if it's totally fake. But I think we should go within ourselves and try to see did I have some part in this? Maybe 99% of the problem was this person's fault. But if there's a little 1% that maybe I could find, that I could say something or do something, you know, because I think that's very healthy. So not to be a charade or an imposter, to put on a mask and a big fat smile, and no, I think it's about taking a deep breath and going within ourselves and saying, well, what could I do to make this situation better? And sometimes it's something in your own family, with your own mom or your kids or your husband or partner. Sometimes it's a god sister. Sometimes it's somebody else, and the fact is everyone needs encouragement. So sometimes we think, oh, the temple president in this temple is puffed up and he doesn't need encouragement. No, that person needs encouragement too. GBC needs encouragement. The temple president needs encouragement. The person who's cleaning the bathroom needs encouragement. Does anybody ever appreciate the person who's cleaning the bathroom or the person emptying the garbage? What a different world it would be if those people got appreciation also. So to stop and appreciate, you see someone picking up a paper. Usually at the temple, there are papers all over the ground and we just walk right by them. But if you pick up a piece of paper or someone picks up a paper and then you say, thank you so much, I think that's going to be contagious, because now I want to pick up a paper from the ground at the temple also. You know what I mean? So I think, I think that's powerful and transformative.
Yeah, that really helps, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your very introspective question.
Thank you.
That was a perfect question, perfect answer.
At least the question was perfect. The answer might have been imperfect, but the question was
Mother Sadhana, I'm sorry, let me follow up with a question I have regarding to the previous question and the answer Mother gave. I'm not so much of a person finding it difficult to say I'm sorry, but I also did not say sorry for just saying it. I believe in the saying, say what you mean and mean what you say. So before I say I'm sorry, I really want to understand that I'm really sorry for whatever happened. But I also learned from one old police officer friend who told me, he was actually giving an advice to somebody who had come to lodge a complaint. And his advice to him was, sometimes in life, all you need to say, I'm sorry. Just saying I'm sorry, 5-letter word, can avoid so much problems, so much complications. So I'm used to saying sorry, but at the same time too, I want to really mean when I say I'm sorry. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm sorry. If I'm not wrong, why should I say I'm sorry? So where do we fall? Just to say sorry to end a problem, or to say sorry when we really mean that we need to say I'm sorry?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Here's what I would like to say, that I think it's better to say something specific, rather than just, I'm sorry. Or, if you say to someone, oh, you're such a great devotee, that kind of has no meaning. But if you say to someone, I really appreciated yesterday that you shared that prasadam with that new person who'd never been to the temple before. That was so important, because maybe that person will come back now. So if you share something specific that you're sorry for, or share something specific that you appreciate, it has more credibility. It's not just, like a teenager can say, sorry.
Yeah.
It has no meaning, right? It's like full of entitlement. The teenager has this, I don't want to pick on teenagers here because adults can be like that too. You know, I know some 40-year-olds who think like that too. But to actually think of something specific that you're going to appreciate about someone or that you're actually sorry for. So I think that is more authentic in my humble opinion. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. Mother Sadhana, you can unmute and ask your question, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavats pranams.
Good to see you, Sadhana.
Dear Rukmini Dd. Krishna. Yeah, so, thank you so much for that very precious sharing. I've always wondered about that story, and I haven't been smart enough to ask the right questions.
Which story?
So having the one about the Bhishma Dev and the arrows and Krishna and the battle, it's such a small minuet out of all the wonderful parts of the whole Mahabharata, but there was always something there which needed to be asked. But then I think you explained it so well today. So thank you. It's very precious. I mean, so a couple of things that really struck me about this was one was, when it was this idea that often as human beings, we often think we know why something is being done. Like in this case, a lot of people would read the Mahabharata, the Gita, and think they know what was going on. And it struck me that I think that when we say that we think we are the controller, it's at that level. We somehow feel we know because we control.
So true.
And so that was this very deeper understanding of when we say, we are not the controller. And then the second part was, and then it resonates so well with everyday life, because what happened between Bhishma and Lord Krishna, Bhishma Dev and Lord Krishna is this love that caused misunderstandings, and that's what happens in the material world. And so and what they showed was that they had to get together, share their love and talk, and and realize that they really were trying to look after each other. And that was very profound, which is something, you're always trying to teach children and others that, when something goes wrong, it's really there's something that we're not saying or doing on both sides. So that was really lovely. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know what you said brought up for me, Ishopanishad uses the word anupashyati. It means anu means to follow, and pashyati means to see. So the point is that we don't actually see directly. If we want to see correctly, we don't see directly. We see by following the mood of the great acharyas. We see correctly by following the mood of great devotees. That's why these pastimes are so valuable, because we learn how to see properly by seeing how does Krishna see? How does Arjuna see? How does Bhishma Dev see? How does Kunti Devi see? And then we learn how to see by following the way they see. And so it's like indirect, but it's more direct than our so-called direct with our perception. It's like we look in the sky and we see the sun. Oh, it's about the size of a quarter, right? That's direct perception, but it's not always correct. It's so often incorrect. And it's so interesting how we do have to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Mahabharata or Bhagavad-Gita through the eyes of the great teachers like Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, we can't understand. Like, for example, one thing that Prabhupada brought up in one of the purports is, well, Krishna's got his blood. He's running toward Bhishma with his own blood all over him. But Krishna has a spiritual body. And, you can't cut spirit anyway. So so it's all very inconceivable in a sense, but it's there to create the drama and the height of the pastimes. So we have to see by following, see not with the naked eye, but see by following after. So beautiful.
I love that.
Thank you so much. Anupashyati.
Anupashyati. Will you send the Ishopanishad quote when you have it?
I think it's in Ishopanishad mantra 5 or something like that. We see by following. That's how we see properly.
Can I ask follow-up? So in the phrase when we say sama darshana, it has the same implication that we see with the eyes of somebody much more evolved than looking at something equally with our own eyes, right? Whatever equality means to us. It's really,
because if we see with our own eyes, we think, oh, this person is low, this person is high, this person is smart, this person is dumb, this person is rich, this person is poor. You know, that's seeing with our own eyes. But when we see through Bhagavad-Gita, you know, Pandita Samadarshana, that a wise person sees all living beings, even the animals, even the birds, even the trees, as equal, because the spirit soul is living within each of them. That's anupashyati, right? We don't see that. I don't see, maybe others do, but I don't see the soul in the tree or the soul in the dog or the soul in a dog eater or a dog, you know, is the same as like a wise, realized person. Wow, that's amazing vision. And that's the vision that we want on the path of bhakti. That's bhakti. That's what we want. That's what we're seeking. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mitravinda Devi, you can ask your question by unmuting yourself.
Thank you so much, dear brother. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you again so much, Mother Rukmini Devidasi.
Thank you.
This aspect, I was really appreciating Sahadev Prabhu's question regarding forgiveness. Bhakti Tirtha Swami often would say to us that whenever something is done, it's essential that the action, or, you know, if you can remember or whatever, that it be addressed in that forgiveness happen, you know, as soon as possible. And I was just reflecting on this. So this word forgive, you know, it has the word give in it, and then it has for. So you're giving something for someone, multiple people usually, for the person who was offended, and then also for the person who did the offense. But in regards to, for example, leadership, which has a great influence on society, as we see, as it said, what great men do, other men follow. But in this age of Kali Yuga, there's a great tendency for those in or with positions of power to, I've heard and seen in some instances, directly and intentionally not apologize for things done intentionally or unintentionally, in a mood to sustain, air quotes, power and control and that kind of thing. And so as it regards us in our attempts to be servants, would you reflect on it, as my Bhakti Tirtha Swami wrote a book, a series, Leadership for an Age of Higher Consciousness, which I was very fortunate to be able to serve in a way of transcription and editing. And in it, he addresses a lot of things that would relate to these positions of power and helping people help others by action. And when you ask for forgiveness, is it not a spiritual tenet?
Of course. And, you know, I think what it brings up for me is that, you know that we live in a society all over the world where there's so many abuses of power. And what can I do to help the situation? I can report instances of abuse when it's something that I see or I'm aware of, certainly. But also I can help the situation by trying to not take offense. So I'm not talking about if I'm a victim of abuse, right? That would be a different thing, someone that needs to be reported to the police, to civil authorities, to temple authorities, whatever the problem is, that needs to be reported. But I can also help the situation by trying not to take offense, because sometimes devotees we talk a lot about offending devotees, right? But I don't think we talk enough about not being offended, to me, humility means, it's all right. I don't get offended. Who am I to get offended? You know, if I'm thinking of myself as so simple and more humble than a blade of grass, who am I to get offended? But again, I'm not talking about a situation of real abuse. That's a different thing. But just in ordinary dealings, when, you know, if someone says boo to me, or, you know, whatever happens, let me try to not be offended, because I can think, if I'm just a tiny, tiny, you know, 1/10,000th the upper portion of a hair, then who am I to get offended by something someone did? Let me try to, you know, serve and honor and see what I can do to help smooth the path for that person, because maybe that person is having a bad day. There's a nice story that I love. If I not over time, I'll just share this little story that I really like. There was a man who was on a subway early in the morning in New York City, early Sunday morning. The subway car was empty and it was very quiet. And then what happened is the train stopped, and this other man got on with his 2 kids. And the second man that got on, he was just sitting there with his head down, and his kids were running all over, back and forth, all over the train, making noise, causing a commotion. And the other man, the first man who was on the train, got exasperated, and he said to the other man, "Sir, please, can you please just control your children?" And the man who had his head hanging down, he looked up and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We've just come from the hospital, and these children just lost their mother. Their mother just passed away." So you see the point I'm making. Sometimes we don't know what's bringing up some pain in someone's heart. So to try to not get offended is a good thing, and try to inquire, you know, what can I do to help smooth the path in your world today, in this world today? What can I do? How can I live with a more compassionate worldview on mentality and action, and not get offended by small things? I hope that's helpful.
I think it's helpful. Yeah. So Kavi Kanapura has another question.
Okay.
Prabhu, you can unmute.
Good questions.
Yes. Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much. Ma.
Good answers.
The only thing is, I wish I'd met your grandfather.
Yeah. Thank you, Ma. Hare Krishna, Ma. So thank you very much, Ma. I have a question, but before I ask the question, I really love your last statement about not getting offended, because that is actually a test of purity. Because I remember many times I've related with so many devotees, and some similarly pure devotee also, but they easily get offended. So I think that is not very good, because if they are thinking the way you are saying, that it's not good to be easily offended also, I think that is a sign of purity also to some extent. So my question is, you make mention about, you quote a word from Sri Upanishad, Anupashyati, and following the footsteps of previous acharyas. So these are being some, I have some issue with this part of the aspect I'm thinking about following the footsteps of acharyas. Somebody gave a lecture the other day, and somebody was telling the person about how devotees should be broad-minded, in the sense that he gave example of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that when the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur invited the British whatever to his temple in Mayapur, he made arrangements for meat or whatever be cooked and served to them, because that is what they will eat.
Amazing.
Ma?
I said it's amazing, huh?
Yes, ma. So even though he will not eat that, so now in my own situation, I have so many friends. I have devotee friends, I have non-devotee friends. And whenever I'm relating with my non-devotee friends, we go out together. And I always make it a principle that, oh, they say, okay, oh, Kazim, they call me Kazim, Kavi or whatever. You buy this for us. We know that you don't eat, but you can buy, no? Even though you don't eat, you can buy for us. So, but in my mind, and I'm thinking, and I'm also trying to defend myself. What I cannot eat, I cannot buy. I don't want to spend my money on what I cannot eat. So in one sense, I'm thinking, okay, I'm right. But when we see this Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur's behavior, is telling on another dimension. And also, that also now, why I'm asking this question is that I have some dogs. I have 3 dogs in my compound. And I'm giving them the prasadam we eat. But some of them also, still, when they get chance, maybe they get a chicken flying around and they grab the chicken and and they tear the chicken apart fresh and eat. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I want to give them vegetarian food. I want to give them, but still, because of their natural inclination, natural nature, when they get this flesh, they will eat. So I'm thinking maybe I should just give them their food. Even though they already have their packed food in the market, I can buy and give them so that their mind will be peaceful. So there's this, this controversy in my mind. So I want you to please throw more light on this and make my mind to be at peace.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think that, it's very hard to follow an example like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta in that situation. I mean, I wouldn't do that. And I think prasadam is one of the secret weapons of Prabhupada's mission. So if you have non-devotee friends and you can help them with agyata sukriti, get some pious credit from taking prasadam, always have some prasadam with you and say, hey, you buy it yourself if you want to eat that, but I'll give you this prasadam. And the same thing with your dog. Say, hey, mister, you want to jump on a chicken, that's your problem. You're a dog. But what I'm going to feed you is going to be prasadam, And so see if you can do that.
Okay, ma, thank you, ma. Already doing that, but I was just thinking, okay, maybe I should sometimes satisfy them, but now I'm okay.
Yeah, there's a discussion of following and then imitating, right? Some things we can't imitate. No. Like sometimes Prabhupada would criticize Gandhi, and then he would say, I can do this, you cannot do this, So, it's not something that we can follow like that.
Okay, ma.
Or if we're in a, starving situation, like there's the story of Prabhupada with Harikesh, and he was sending Harikesh to Russia, I guess. And Harikesh was asking Prabhupada, well, what will I eat there? And Prabhupada said, eat meat, but you go preach. So was he really saying, yes, go eat meat? Obviously, you can probably find a potato in Russia, carrots, beets, but so I think we should try to understand the essence. And again, about not being offended, we look at Prahlad Maharaj, we look at the Pandavas. Did the Pandavas get offended? No. Did Prahlad Maharaj get offended? So I think this is why we try, this is anupasthiti, try to see by following. How should I act by following the great souls?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. I really appreciate your answer.
Thank you so much, Mother Rukmini, for the wonderful answers. If you still have a few more minutes, I have 1 or 2 more questions for you.
All right. And, I was also just thinking how Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed to be an insect in the house of a devotee, so he could get a little prasadam, right?
Yes, like a worm. Okay, Mother, my question is, you did touch on the dangers of aparad offenses. As aspiring devotees, we all know the dangers of committing offenses. More specifically, Vaishnava aparad. So I am very cautious to avoid committing offenses, but sometimes I commit them unknowingly. But my question is, what is there to be afraid of if one commits an offense to a Vaishnava. Because if we look back in the scriptures, almost every time somebody got cursed by a devotee, he actually benefited from the curse. Like Bhima, before he became Bhima, he was Mahavishnu in the heavenly worlds. He wasn't a Mahajan, but when he was cursed to come to earth to suffer in one lifetime, because he did come here, he is one of the Mahajans. And there are countless examples like that. Manigriva, what's the name? The two Arjuna trees, Nalakuvara, and yes. So there are many like that. So at some point, they may appear as if the curses, the punishment, torture, but in the long run, it's a benefit, it's a boon. So I think it's more dangerous offending demons, non-devotees, than offending Vaishnavas. What do you say? Hare Krishna.
Well, things are hard to figure out and very complicated. So the thing is, the best thing is just to be cautious and to be careful, because, you know, if we offend a devotee may bless us anyway, but Krishna will not be happy. Krishna will take the offense. Like in the story of Ambarish Maharaj, you know, that, what was his name? Durvasa Muni. He was so powerful. He could go to the spiritual planets, all the higher planets. He could go and see Lord Narayan himself and say, hey, you know, get this Brahmastra off of me. And Lord Narayan said, I'm sorry, I can't do anything. You've offended my devotee. You're going to have to go take shelter of him. And then inevitably what happens when someone goes to the devotee and begs forgiveness, the devotee says, oh, just let me come and give you a hug. You know, the devotee doesn't take offense, but the Lord may take offense. So therefore, it behooves us to try to be kind to everyone. And you know what? Not just devotees, because everyone is beloved to Krishna, whether they're a devotee or not. Every living being. There's a place in the Chaitanya Bhagavat where Lord Chaitanya says, every living being is my beloved part and parcel. And anyone who causes harm to any one of them, I will destroy him. So, you know, that compassion needs to be broad and deep and wide and inclusive to include all living beings, because in fact, everyone is Krishna's beloved, whether they know they're a devotee or not, or whether they call themselves a Christian or a Muslim, or even if they haven't discovered any kind of faith yet, still they're beloved, even if they haven't realized that friendship toward God in one of his forms. So better to be humble and careful, you know? If we stay low to the ground, if we stay in a humble place, then we won't be getting all inflated like a balloon and have to pop, right? So better to not get inflated by false ego, better to stay humble.
Thank you so much, Mother. Since Mitravinda Mataji has another question, you can unmute, Mother.
Hi, Krishna. I just wanted to say how extremely powerful, reflective, and connective that piece was for me. Regarding Vaishnav aparad, offending devotees. And this is where what I truly appreciate about Mother Rukmini Dd is she has this incredible way of educating with sweetness, and also allowing us this window to reflect internally how what she's saying, or the leelas, or her answers connect with us directly in our lives. So this piece, this education, truly high educational piece about everyone is important to Srimati Radharani.
Beautiful.
And aparad means, you know, offending Radharani, or, you know, Krishna is offended when the living entities are hurt. And so we're non-sectarian. Mm-hmm. So when we say Vaishnava aparad, then that means you can go out and offend anybody else who you consider not to be a Vaishnava. But, you know, even choosing that is is an offense of sorts, yes? So I just wanted to say how like truly reflective that was for me and the interfaith work that I do and the aspects and platforms that I have to share with people. And it really made me feel, it really just, you know, illuminated the information that's on the pages. Thank you.
Did you like that story about the man on the subway car? I really like that story, that he was getting offended by the other man's children running around, but he didn't know that their mother had just died and they just left the hospital, and the father was grieving, and he was completely oblivious to his children, just disturbing other people. So, you know, sometimes we don't know what someone's carrying. And I also like, one thing I like to remember is a little mantra that I like to remember myself. Who am I to be offended by anyone? If I'm supposed to be more humble than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, who am I to be offended by anyone? I'm supposed to be tolerant. I'm supposed to be tiny, you know? So thank you, Mitravinda. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Just to top a little bit on what Mitravinda Devi said, I think Mother Rukmini, you're so artful of how to bring the ideal world into the real world. Because usually when we speak from the scriptures, it is ideal, it's an ideal description. But in order to bring it into our day-to-day lives, some of us are not so good at connecting the dots, but somehow you're able to do that so beautiful. Thank you so much. Kavi Kondapura Prabhu has another question.
Wow, he's the king of questions.
Not question.
He's the Kavi. He's the Kavi of all questions.
He's a Kavi, yes.
Not really question. I just want this Mitra Vinda Mataji, she has been asking question and contributing, but we cannot see her face. So, Madam, maybe you can ask her. At least she should give us a darshan so that if you see her on the road or somewhere, we can know this is Mitra Vinda Mataji. You know.
Yeah. We would like to see your. We would like to see your sweet face.
And the other point, Ma, is that you mentioned about not being offended, and me, because I begin to connect the dots more and more, because I've said with devotees that many devotees look up to them, but when some devotees is suffering around them, then they tend to say, oh, you see, because this person has offended me, and that is why he's getting the reaction. So when I'm hearing all this, I begin to, that's why I was saying, I love that point that you said, that not to be offended, actually, it shows this is a sign of purity, of singleness. Because I've seen devotees, some devotees, they take pleasure in other people's suffering, and they think, oh, because he has offended me, and that is why Krishna is punishing him. I don't know whether it's a good mentality to have for a devotee.
Yeah. You know,
or see a devotee or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, many different levels of consciousness, even within one temple community. You know, sometimes the person doing the most humble service is the most spiritually advanced. You know, you never know. So best not to judge, because what does it say in the Bible? There, but for the grace of God go I. You know, so I don't know why someone is suffering. Maybe that's a special blessing from Krishna. You know, I think that's a very materialistic way of judging other people, that someone's suffering and we think, oh, that's because of, you know, that's like blaming the victim, right? It's because of something you did, so now you're suffering. Maybe it's a special blessing from Krishna. Maybe they're going to get much deeper realizations than I have because of the suffering they're undergoing right now, you know, so yeah, so easy to judge, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mother. We have Srivas Vanachari on here, if he may have anything to say. Maybe before he says whatever, Mother Rukmini, Srivas Prabhu was the first speaker to start this particular chapter, Canto 1, Chapter 9. And it was beautiful when he did speak, and successive speakers also have been speaking wonderfully. But there is one thing a couple of them said that is quite intriguing, and I wanted to ask from you, what would that mean? It is said that Bhishma Dev gave 5 special arrows to Duryodhana to keep these 5 arrows under his pillow so that he could use those 5 arrows to kill the Pandavas the following day when they go to the war. So my question is, of course, Krishna knew about it and then thwarted the plan, so it did not fructify. But my question is, did Bhishma Dev know that Krishna is going to spoil the plan, and so he's going to give the arrows anyway? Or he did not know, but he seriously meant that, hey, Duryodhana, I love you so much. I'm on your side. Have these 5 arrows and you finish the Pandavas tomorrow. Did he know that Krishna is going to spoil the plan, or he didn't know? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
In fact, this chapter is a very controversial chapter because it's so difficult to relate to them in our mundane life, how such great souls would be acting the way they acted.
Yeah,
So,
well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I would say that Bhishma Dev certainly had full faith in Krishna. And we'd have to read in the Mahabharata. Do you have the Mahabharata? You can read the details of these pastimes in the, especially the one by Krishna Dharma. I have it right here. Krishna Dharma's Mahabharata. It's really nice. You can also get it on audiobook, so you can listen to it while you're driving in your car. So I don't really know the answer, but I would say that certainly Bhishma Dev had full faith in Krishna, and he took shelter of Krishna in life and at death. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mother. Okay, His Grace Srivas Vanachari, you can unmute and.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My obeisances to you. You're muted. I can only see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay, good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the wonderful, beautiful class. we're always happy to have you on this platform.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much. Thank you for inviting me.
So thank you. We're looking forward to. Yeah, we're looking forward for more of such wonderful discussions.
Well, your community is very good at questions. They think of very deep and heart-touching questions. So thank you. Thank you for inspiring them, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I'm in traffic, so some sound is coming at the back.
Hare Bo. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We are in the traffic, and there's some sound coming from some police vehicles.
Sirens. Okay.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, thank you.
Siren, yeah, from police. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mother, so much for your time. And we look forward to having your wonderful association again and again and again.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And we apologize for the hitches we had at the beginning of the class. I was asked to host, and I'm not as good as our precious Kusha Prabhu, so I was fumbling here and there. But
I think you did a great job.
Well, somehow by your grace and the Vaishnavas, I think it's been beautiful.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So we hope to have you some other time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So
you're welcome. So in absence of further questions, you may all unmute, and then we chant big Hare Krishna to Mother.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hey, Grace, Rukmini Dd.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
May Prabhupada bless you all. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.